Insanity just keeps hanging on. It just keeps hanging on. Like it is February and like I don't even think we've reached peak insanity at this point. So there's not really much news that interests me today. Like I did see kind of an article about CW's Superman and Lois that they're trying to do, and they're hiring two actors to play the Super Sons. And I thought it was going to be the Super Sons based on the comics, but of course not. It's going to be Lois and Clark having two kids, and well, I don't really watch the CW anyway, other than the first season that I watched of Arrow, and like I tried to watch Supergirl and I couldn't even get through the first episode. So yeah, like I just acknowledge that the CW shows are just not for me. I am not their audience, and so I'm not even wasting my time at this point. But yeah, that was about the only interesting news, and it wasn't really interesting to me once I found out that it wasn't what I thought. Like I saw this yesterday kind of making its rounds, and you know, I just like this is one of those things, like the idea of them taking classic novels and just race bending and race bending the covers. It doesn't really bother me because it's just stupid. And it's really sort of my opinion on it, because you haven't changed the actual novels. Like, I read Secret Garden when I was in fifth grade, and I remember really enjoying it. But it was very clear that it was about white people. So to suddenly have this diverse edition, was it going to make me feel excited? Same thing with Moby Dick, which we had to deal with in junior year of high school. Like, race bending the captain is not going to make the inside story different. And it's one of those funny things because it's just another excuse of, you know, progressives, and particularly white progressives, trying to give minorities handouts. Because you say that you're doing this for us, and you're saying that this is, if you can see the little catch thing on the photo where it says, what if your favorite literary characters reflected the diversity of America? They're classics. Like, it's okay. And that's really the thing. No one was asking them to go back and try to race bend these classic books. Like, no one was asking for it. And like this whole excuse thing of the diversity of America. Blacks are still only 13% of the population. So yes, I kind of think that books kind of reflect the diversity of America. We're 13% of the population. We shouldn't be oversaturating the market, because that's kind of a problem if we do, because then there's overrepresentation. But then when they say diversity, that's really what they mean. And at this point, it's clear that that's really what they mean. They don't mean, diversity as in let's really reflect what America looks like. It's literally a matter of let's overrepresent minority peoples to make them feel good, and so that we can virtue signal and pat ourselves on the back for the good job that we're doing. And it doesn't work. And it goes back to, kind of like the Birds of Prey video that I did, and like some of the others, like where I've been talking about how you can tell that they don't trust their product because their marketing tactics is basically all on creating drama. And it is this thing that just stems from virtue signaling. And it doesn't matter how much the virtue signaling doesn't work. It just, like, they just keep insisting on doing it. And it is a terrible idea. Now, I've tackled the quote unquote diverse editions, and like I said, like, my opinion of it is it's just dumb. So I don't really have an opinion other than that. Like, I don't need you putting, like, it actually does kind of upset me a little bit, because, like, I'm tired of that being the thing. Like, I'm supposed to just buy it because you put a black person on the cover. And I'm supposed to like something because it has a black woman on the cover. As if I can only ever understand, black women, as if we all go through the same exact thing. So we're just cookie cutters, and, one experience is shared by every single black woman. And, like, that's not even reality. And, like, that does bother me, that idea that I'm supposed to be grateful for them doing things for me that I didn't ask for them to do. And it's not even for me, it's for them to paint themselves as the virtuous good people that they clearly are not. Now, this article from Bounding into Comics was kind of like a funny little one, and it was another one of those that I just had a kind of quick reaction, and not really visceral. I just found it fascinating. Now, I've seen the Feminist Baby, the one with the little girl, and I remember seeing it and thinking, oh, there's no way I will ever buy that kind of thing. Like, I have a niece, there's no way I would ever buy that for my niece. And I found myself in a strange position because, like, DC also has, like, some kid books, and I bought a couple of them, and, like, I wanted to buy the Wonder Woman one. I wanted to buy that because I have a niece and I have nephews, and I wanted to buy one because I wanted to be able to give it to my niece. But then I read it, and, like, I just like, I don't understand why everything has to be this kind of feministy, as if people are telling girls that they can't do anything. I don't know where this idea came from. Like, I don't know where it came from, because I can definitely say in my life, there has never been a time where people have told me, there's never been a time where men have told me I can't do anything. So this whole, and it takes me back to the Olay commercial from the Super Bowl, where it was basically like Katie Couric was talking about, do people still say that? Talking about women not going into space or stuff like that, or women not in the sciences. And I remember saying, yeah, no one says that. like this whole, like, they act as if, and they do this, period. It's this stupid thing of rewriting reality to make themselves feel relevant. No one tells girls that they can't do anything. That there's no rights that men have that women just don't have nowadays. Like, it literally is, at this point, you want special privileges. And, and then they just won't even admit that it's a matter of they just want special privileges. But then they get mad because women like me say, there's a reason I'm not a feminist. And there is a reason. I'm not trying to be a man. I'm not trying to be a man. I accept the fact that I'm a woman. I accept the fact that biologically there are just some things that I cannot do. I cannot be stronger than a man because men have 30% more upper body strength than women do. I'm not trying to go around and say I can do anything a man can do, because biologically there are just some things that I cannot do. Likewise, as a female, there are just certain things that I can do that they cannot do. And accepting differences really shouldn't be a problem. Now, I didn't know about this new feminist baby book, but of course it is, because it's, they can't just screw up little girls. They have to screw up little boys too. And you know, it's troublesome. Now, what I didn't know about this article is that apparently these feminist baby books are published by Disney. The same Disney who tried to convince you that they weren't trying to turn Star Wars female, even though they clearly are trying to turn Star Wars female. So the same company who keeps saying they have no agenda, like, you clearly have an agenda. And like, I guess there's kind of a theme of the articles today. Like, there's kind of a theme of the articles today. And it basically is a matter of, why can't they just stop lying? Like, why can't they just stop lying? And, here's a good example of, a company deciding not to lie. So this one from Newsarama. So you have Devil's Due, who's launching a left-leaning political imprint. Clearly that will not be for me. Clearly I will not be their audience. But they're being honest. And like, to me, it's one of those things. You can disagree with me politically. You can disagree with me socially. You can disagree with me religiously. Like, but just don't try to force me to believe what you believe. Because if I'm not trying to force you to believe what I believe, don't try to force me to believe what you believe. Stop trying to force people to be obedient to your worldview. And, and I say that because, like, you listen to, and I did listen to that clip from AOC, because it's about the influence, the power, the control, the influence that they want to have. It's why, even though we're now in a new year, we're now technically in a new decade, they're still trying to force the same politics from 2015 on the rest of the world, because it's a matter of, we want to have power and control. We don't want anyone to believe, like, we don't want anyone to think for themselves. We don't want anyone to have their own thoughts and opinions. We want you to engage the way that we want you to, and, we just want you to do what we want you to do. And I've never been good at being told what to do. It's part of the reason why I know that I'm terrible in the workforce, because I don't just like to be told what to do. Like, I've never been that kind of person. I've always had my own mind. I've always had my own thought processes. And even if I'm wrong, I would rather be able to come to that conclusion myself from thinking it, instead of you trying to force it on me. So yeah, like, it's kind of sad, because I feel like just a couple of years ago, there just seemed to be so much news, and now everything is so much the same at this point, because you're just seeing this kind of like death spiral of entertainment. And I know that to a degree, like, entertainment as a whole is never fully going to go away. And, like, one of the things I'm glad about is the Expendables comic that Richard is doing with Sylvester Stallone and Chuck Dixon. Like, I love projects like that, because that's someone from entertainment, coming in, and it's a story that is just action packed, and it's just exciting. And if there's politics in there, then it's not going to be agenda based, politics. And, it kind of like like I was glad to see that project pop up because it sort of was like a kind of validation a bit for what what DNC is doing. Like it's that kind of validation that said, you know, people just want good stories. People don't want agenda. You know, and the thing is we don't want agenda. Like I'm not against agenda, like I'm not against agenda based imprints and agenda based comics, but to me it's sort of like just like put your agenda up front. Like let your audience know that that is your agenda. Like don't try to lie about it. Just be honest about it. Be upfront. You want to engage in agenda, do what Devils Do is doing. Create a left-leaning political imprint, and I wish that but of course that would kind of like empty the market elsewhere, but I think that would be an amazing thing if they could do that. But it's sort of like take the time and do your your political comics at places like this, at places like Devils Do, at other kind of like imprints and things like that, and leave the mainstream comics alone, which should not have heavy agenda based politics. You know, yes, we can't escape politics fully because, you know, it's part of our political beliefs are part of our worldview. And I do freely acknowledge that. And, you know, I've always known and understood that particularly in the entertainment industry, you're just going to find more liberals than you're going to find conservatives. But it's one of those things where it's sort of like if you can tell a good story and you're not using that story to beat people into submission, then your personal politics shouldn't matter. Like you should be able to just concentrate on making a good story. And like I feel like like the customer at this point shouldn't feel like a broken record constantly asking for, you know, less agenda in their politics. Like we shouldn't have to keep saying, you know, I'd like less agenda. I would just like a good story. I would like to just buy a comic and just be really enthused by what I'm reading. And, you know, that's the way that I felt with Huck. It was just a good story. It's the way that I felt with Middle West. It was just a good story. You know, I just finished the last 2 issues of Elsewhere. Same thing, just good story. Like leave the agenda part out of it and leave it for, you know, things like this with, you know, that's specifically meant for that. Because here's the thing. Their audience is not going to be in mainstream media. It's not going to be mainstream. Like, it's sort of like with the Trump comics. Like, the Trump audience is not going to be, or it's not going to have as much crossing with mainstream comics. This is the same thing. And I know that because it's not about entertaining and it's not about selling comics and it's not about, you know, it's not about the industry at all. It's about agenda and it's about power and control. I know that they're not going to release, they're not going to, Bendis will never willingly release my Superman, and that makes me so upset. But like I look at an article like this and to a degree I can't help but feel a little bit of hope, because it's kind of like if you can just keep these kind of things, you know, and just put them in their corner where they belong. And it's the same thing with right-wing politic agenda comics. Like, just if you could just keep those 2 in their corners, if you know, you can put them in their corners where they belong, where people who enjoy that kind of stuff can have access to them and purchase them, then that just makes it better for everyone, because then the rest of us, we can just have our good stories. We can just read about the characters that we like, and we can be entertained, and the world would immediately be a lot more peaceful that way. And I really do kind of believe that, like if entertainment went back to being what it was, where it was just about entertaining and it wasn't about forcing politics and it wasn't about forcing agenda, it would allow people to relax. And part of the reason why there's such division is because no one is being allowed to relax, because you're having these crazies. And yeah, you can have crazies on both the left and the right, and you could probably even have crazies in the middle. And it's these vocal crazies that won't allow anybody to just have a single moment of rest, that just they're just killing it for everyone else. So then everyone feels tense, and then everyone feels like they're being forced to make decisions that they may not want to make, or take sides that they may not want to take. And we can we could certainly use a heck of a lot less agenda. And wow, I was kind of more interested in that than I thought I would be. But I do really think it's because, like, if you're honest about what you're doing, then I give you credit and I give you much respect, because I can disagree with you, but I just know that you're there. I mean, it's sort of like why it's sort of like why I don't I don't want political correctness in speech and things like that, because want I don't want actual racists to have to hide. I just like to know who they are. And I'd rather them be open with their words about it, because you can just act accordingly. Like I've always kind of been that person. Like, what someone says or what someone thinks doesn't bother me. But what someone may feel forced to do because they're forced to hide, that does bother me, because they shouldn't have to. Because you're not going to make a civil society by making people be who they're not. Like, you're going to have a civil society by allowing people to be who they are. And yeah, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to go on too much longer, but that was kind of the interesting thing that happened. And now I got a video out of it, so I'm kind of glad for that. So if you like this, click the like button, click the subscribe button, do the bell stuff for notifications, share, do all of that. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.